What we believe is that customer service and support is not a cost center. It actually increases revenue. I'll go so far as to say that perhaps we shouldn't call it customer support or customer service. What we might want to do is call it the revenue generation department, the customer retention department, to make sure we have customers tomorrow department, if you know what I mean, because this is what our people do. How was your experience with this? It was fine. What does fine really mean? Fine is not really fine. As a matter of fact, in the customer service world, fine is the F-bomb of customer service and support, because F means they're smiling, but it's a fake smile. Everything's fine. No, it's not fine. I, insincere feedback. That's what that smile is. N is they're thinking, I'm never coming back. And E is for emotionless. And this is really how forethought can come in and support the agent as well as not just the customer. We think of so much AI supporting a customer. They can go into a knowledge base, type in a question, look at a frequently asked question, and get answers. But if we can use the same type of technology where the agent can type in a question the right way to get the best answer, we can support the customer even better. If there's a product we know they need to buy, let's train our agents to effectively cross-sell and upsell when appropriate. So it's not about being pushy, it's about being helpful and giving that agent the tools that they need. So there are some great advanced uses of AI that support both the customer's experience as well as the agent's experience. So that's why you're not going to eliminate the jobs of a customer support person. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be the type of thing where that customer support person becomes even more important to the idea of revenue generation, customer retention, and growth in your business, which is what this whole presentation is about today.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm Dion Nicholas. I will be your host today. We are going to be talking about using customer support as a growth driver. This is extremely important for customer support teams in thinking about how your customer support team can not only support your customers, but also turn them into raving fans and use them as growth drivers. Today, joining me, we have Shep Hyken. Shep is the Chief Amazement Officer at Shepherd Presentations, an award-winning keynote speaker and New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling business author. As one of the leading experts in the field of customer service and experience, Shep works with companies who want to build loyal relationships with their customers and their employees. Shep has been featured on Forbes, USA Today, Fox News, NBC, and Today, and is a customer support consultant for Disney, AT&T, Lexus, and American Express. Shep, welcome.
Hey, it is great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Great to have you.
So we've got a lot to talk about in a short period of time, and I know you want me to kind of start off with a little bit of a presentation. Are we ready to get into it?
Let's do it. We're looking forward.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start with what I call some very, very, well, I get excited about it, but some people say stats are boring. Well, I geek out over this type of thing. But let me share with you some stats that I think will drive the curiosity of today's presentation, as well as give you some fuel as to why this is really, really important. Here's what we found. We surveyed over 1,000 customers from basically a Gen Pop study of the United States, weighted to the U.S. Census of gender and geography, age, ethnicity, and even income. And what we found was 78% of customers would go out of their way to do business with a company that has better customer service. 58% believe that great service is more important than price. So we're making the case that it's really a good thing to focus on your customer, focus on the service, focus on the experience, because these are your growth drivers. 75% of customers would switch to a competing brand or company if they found out that it was more convenient to do business with that other company. In other words, remove the friction. And believe me, in the customer support world, there's plenty of friction, lots of hold times, lots of transfers, et cetera, et cetera. 70% would pay more for convenience, making price less relevant, which means you invest in delivering a better service experience. Your customers are going to reciprocate by making price less relevant and be willing to spend a little bit more. And finally, and I do this just for the single people that could be watching this presentation today, this is a great stat. If you're single, 56% of the people that we survey would be more interested in dating someone if they delivered a better customer experience. So, as I think about these stats from the research that we provided, and we do this research study about every year or so, we call it the ACA, the Achieving Customer Amazement Study, because what we believe is that customer service and support is not a cost center. It actually increases revenue. I'll go so far as to say that perhaps we shouldn't call it customer support or customer service. What we might want to do is call it the revenue generation department, the customer retention department, to make sure we have customers tomorrow department, if you know what I mean, because this is what our people do. They save customers, they create stronger confidence. And if we manage the customer support experience properly, people don't mind calling us. I know that as I interview people and survey people, we ask them, how do you feel about calling customer support? And we know that like 48% of the people we survey would rather go to the dentist than call customer support. Some of them would rather clean a toilet than call customer support. And my response to that is they just haven't called the right customer support. They're calling certain companies and certain industries that are bringing it all down. So with that in mind, what I want to do in the time we have, and I'm going to do a presentation. I know they've given me about 4.5 to 5 hours. I'm just kidding. They've given me about 15 minutes to share with you 7 ideas that will help you create a more amazing experience when it comes to delivering that great service and support that you want to give your customers. The first thing is, let's talk about what amazement is. I talk about creating an amazing experience. I talk about the Achieving Customer Amazement Study. What is amazement? Amazement is not about being over the top. It's not about blowing your customer away with the most incredible service they've ever had. Once in a great, great while, that is going to happen. And oftentimes that happens due to a problem that's resolved in such a way that the support agent or maybe a number of employees had to go above and beyond what they traditionally do. But the truth of the matter is, amazement is really just the predictable and consistent above average experience. And this is what you find customers will say. I love doing business with them. Why? They're always so knowledgeable when I call. They're always so friendly. I always get right through. They always have the answers. The word always followed by something positive. And everything that I just shared with you, always get through, always have the answers, always knowledgeable, always friendly. These are basic expectations. They're not over the top. But what's interesting is when it always happens, when it's consistent and predictable, and the customer is using words like always to describe something positive, you are operating in that zone of amazement. So it's really that simple. How much better than average do you have to be? Just the tiniest bit better. As a matter of fact, I interviewed a gentleman and became somewhat friendly with him, Horst Schultz, who is the first president and co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton. And we have the same philosophy, and we've had it for years, a little better than average all of the time. And I asked him, how much better than average do you have to be? And he quickly assigned a number to it, 10% better. I said, okay, describe what 10% better looks like. He says, well, when you check into our hotel and you're greeted, and as soon as the person behind the desk finds out your name, they use your name. They use it the right way. And maybe when you're walking by the front desk later on, they'll say, hello, Mr. Hyken, hope you're having a great day. Just using their name is an example of a tiny bit above average, 10% above average. I go, wow. So it's really not rocket science. It's not all that complicated. You just meet expectations and maybe add a little tiny something to it. And that's really all it is. One of the things you want to stay away from, however, is being average, because average is where you do not get 4s and 5s on a scale of 1 to 5, if that's your rating system. Scale of 1 to 10, if it's net promoter score, scale of 0 to 10. But on a 1 to 5 system, where 1 is bad and 5 is amazing, 3 is average. It's right in the middle. So if you're just a tiny bit better than average, in other words, a 3.3, you're operating in the zone of amazement. I jokingly say that average, another word to describe average, is fine. How was your experience with this? It was fine. What does fine really mean? Fine is not really fine. As a matter of fact, in the customer service world, fine is the F bomb of customer service and support, because F means they're smiling, but it's a fake smile. Everything's fine. No, it's not fine. I, insincere feedback. That's what that smile is. N is they're thinking, I'm never coming back. And E is for emotionless. I don't even care about you. It's just okay. It's just average. Given the opportunity to do business with someplace that's better than average, we're going to find it, and I will do business with that company. Fine is not fine. The F bomb of customer experience. All right, so that's number one, amazement. A little better than average all the time. Number two is, how do you make amazement happen? Well, you must focus on what I refer to as interactions. Interactions are, another word to describe it is what Jan Carlson called it long, long time ago. Back in the 1980s, he came up with this idea. Jan Carlson, by the way, was the former president of Scandinavian Airlines, or I guess he is the former president of Scandinavian Airlines. And he came up with the idea of the moment of truth to manage the experience of the passengers on that airline. And he defined the moment of truth as any time a passenger comes into contact with any aspect of the airline, they form an impression. And that impression goes one of two ways. It's good or bad. That's the moment of truth. You want that moment of truth to be a positive moment of truth. Now, I love that idea of the moment of truth. Each one of these interactions are opportunities for a customer, a client, anything you call the people who do business with you. It is an opportunity for them to form an impression. Now, Jan Carlson said they could be good and bad. And I said, there's a third way. We've already talked about it. And that's the word fine or average or satisfactory. That is not a good moment of truth. As a matter of fact, I'd rather have a bad moment of truth where a customer complains than an average or satisfactory moment of truth where they typically don't say anything because it's just okay. But here's how I define the moments of truth. 3 ways. Bad, those are moments of misery. Average, those are moments of mediocrity. And positive moments of truth or good moments of truth are what I refer to as moments of magic. Now, magic isn't about, again, blow me away, make it amazing, over the top. No, amazing is simply a moment of truth that's a little above average. In other words, a moment of magic. And it is the consistent and predictable moments of truth that are above average that make customers want to come back again and again. So that's number 2. Manage the interaction, manage your moments of truth, and create moments of magic. Number 3 is knowledge. Customers expect knowledge in 2 ways. Number 1, they expect the agent to be knowledgeable about them, the customer. They expect you to know who they are. They expect you to have a record in front of them that shows purchasing patterns and all types of things about the customer. What did they buy in the past? How often have they called? Have they called before for customer support? It's easy to get this information. They also, and by the way, whether they know it or not, they expect it. They really like it when you know who they are. But what they truly expect is that you would have knowledge of your products and services that you sell. And this is really how Forethought can come in and support the agent as well as not just the customer. We think of so much AI supporting a customer where they can go into a knowledge base, type in a question, look at a frequently asked question type of page and get answers. But if we can use the same type of technology where the agent can type in a question the right way to get the best answer, we can support the customer even better. So we don't necessarily have to have the knowledge in our head, but we got to know where to go to get that knowledge. And Forethought provides a great platform in which to do so, typing the right questions in the right way and getting our customers the answers that they need. So customers want and expect us to be knowledgeable. Number 4, and this kind of ties into what I just talked about. Simply put, how do we use AI? AI can be used to support the customer, where a customer can jump onto a website, type in some questions, get answers back. Powerful use of AI. But when we get the AI to support the agent, wow, that's where we can better understand a great answer that is so appropriate for the customer with incredible accuracy. Because oftentimes, and I love to use this example, a customer doesn't know exactly how to type the question in. And the example that I'll share with you happened to me. I was looking for a docking station for a computer. So I went on the website of this company and I typed in the question when the chat bot popped up and said, "How can I help you?" I typed in, "I'm interested in this docking station. When you plug the docking station or the computer into the docking station, will it also charge the computer?" And the response came back almost immediately. "Which computer are you interested in purchasing?" So I typed in, "I'm not interested in purchasing the computer. I'm interested in purchasing the docking station. If I plug the computer into the docking station, will that charge the computer?" And then I added, "Or will I need to add a power cord in addition to plugging it into the docking station?" And the response that came back was, "Which computer are you interested in purchasing?" Well, by that time I was done. I just simply picked up the phone. As simply as it was to pick up the phone and dial a phone number, it became complicated when it started asking me questions like, for my customer ID, am I a small or a big business? Am I interested in this or that? And finally, after I don't know how much friction, I finally reached somebody in the sales department who was able to answer my question. But wow, why did it have to take so long? AI can support a customer as well as the agent in so many ways to speed up the process and eliminate friction. And speaking of friction, this is number 5, no friction. In other words, make it easy, be convenient for your customers. Give you one of the top needs that customers expect. And we surveyed them for the last several years and we benchmarked this question: what's really important? And one of the very important things that customers want is they want it to be easy to connect to a company. And part of that easiness is contact information on how to get support, easy to find. I love Zappos.com as a great example, where on every page or practically every page, there's a phone number you can call. Now, Zappos is an online retailer that sells shoes and many other accessories, but they're online. Why would they put a phone number on every page? Because they know customers have questions, especially about shoes. Does this shoe size run small? Does it run big? Well, just pick up the telephone and call somebody who can give you all of that information. I love it when it works, no friction. No friction also means low or no hold time. And if there is a hold time, tell me how long it's going to be so I can feel like I have some control over my situation. And even better yet, give me the opportunity of a choice of having to stay on hold or have you call me back. These are the types of things that remove friction. Lower no hold times, quick response times, and digital channels where AI can support a conversation versus maybe waiting 2 or 3 days for an email to come back to me. And the other thing is customers hate to repeat their story. That's friction. When customers have to repeat their story again and again, they're very, very frustrated. When they get transferred more than one time. And by the way, we always tell our clients, it's a great goal to have a one call resolution with no transfer, but I'm okay with a one call resolution with one transfer, especially when the transfer is made in such a way that the customer doesn't have to repeat their story. All right, let's look at number 6, because everything we've talked about needs to be consistent. It needs to happen all the time. So number 6 is consistency. And consistency comes in 3 areas. Number 1, whatever the product or service that you sell that the customer is buying, it has to consistently be reliable and dependable. Customers want that. But the reality is every once in a while, there's going to be a problem. So number 2, employees, when the customer interacts with them, must create a consistent experience. In other words, if I talk to Bob today and Susan tomorrow, they're completely different people. But when I'm finished, I'm going to say that was a great experience with both people, even though their personalities might be different and the way they go about things might be different. The end result is the same. I'm a happy customer. And number 3, we'll talk about something that is tough for some people to understand, and that's channel consistency. And what that means is every channel is different. What I mean by channels, is it a phone? Is it a chat? Is it an email? Is it a text? Is it the social media where I'm reaching out to you and getting a response? All of these channels are different and the way customers use them are different. However, the consistency is in the end result. Example, if you respond to my email within 1 hour, I'm impressed. Wow, that was quick. You make me wait on the phone for an hour, I'm going to be upset with you. Make me wait on the phone for 3 minutes. I'm happy. Okay. But you see the difference? 1 hour in email, 4 or 5 minutes, 3 minutes in a phone call wait time. And I'm going to have the same result, but it's a completely different experience. One took much longer than the other, but again, same result. I'm happy. So we want to create what I call channel consistency. And number 7 is appreciation. One of the things I emphasize over and over again is you cannot say thank you enough to your customers. This can come in the form of at the end of a conversation, you thank them, whether it's text-based or over the phone and you're actually talking to somebody. It could be a follow-up email. It could be a follow-up text. It's whatever you use to communicate that final little step that lets the customer know that you appreciated their business. And you know what? I want to add a bonus, if I may. And I think this is kind of fun. So I guess I'm not giving you 7. I'm already giving you value add. I'm giving you a number 8. So this is the bonus. And that is to let your support team, the people on the front line, your agents, let them be the voice of the customer because they're on the front line. They're hearing every single day from customers who are giving and sharing feedback, who are telling us about their problems. Let us create a forum that allows us as the front line, the agents, to share with others, management, operations, people in marketing, even the leadership. Let them know what's really going on. And you know what else I would encourage? As long as we're the front line acting as the voice of the customer, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for leadership every once in a while to make their way over to the support center and experience some of what all of us on the front line are experiencing ourselves. I love that idea of leadership actually being told, hey, 2 hours a month, go down and shadow a support person or listen in or even handle some of the support calls. Here's a great story straight from my latest book, I'll Be Back. Sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it's all about getting the customer to come back again and again. I'll be back is what you want your customers to say. And there was somebody that called Microsoft for support, and there was a gentleman named William that answered the phone. And this gentleman was so good at taking care of this customer that this woman called back, asked to speak to a manager, and also wondered whether or not she could ever ask for William the next time that she called. And that turned out to be William Gates, as in Bill Gates, going down, spending a little bit of time on the front line just to hear what customers are saying and supporting them so he knows what's going on. Pretty cool idea. Be the voice of the customer. Let that front line be the voice of the customer and bring it to leadership and management and make changes as a result. All right. So those are my 7 plus the bonus ideas and strategies and tactics to create customer amazement. Deanna, I'm going to bring it back to you and we can talk a little bit about it and answer any questions you might have.
Really excited to hear your top 7 or 8 tactics for turning customer support into a growth center for your business. One of the things you mentioned was in tactic 5, which is create a no friction experience. And so this especially rings true for our customers. And they know how important it is not to just to deploy a bot that traps a customer in an endless loop, so to speak. So what is a good way to measure friction or the absence of friction? What's a good measure for leaders to use there?
Well, I think let's talk about what you shouldn't use. I think it's important to know average handle time, but if you make average handle time such an important stat to pay attention to, where your front line is more worried about average handle time than taking care of the customer, then I believe we're making friction happen. Why? Because it's simple for a customer to say, okay, I got my answer. Then all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, I didn't get everything I needed. I have to call back. So if you can eliminate a reason for them to have to call back, that would be a great way of eliminating friction. So take a look at that customer's profile, look at the record, look at the answer that you're giving them and wonder, are there other answers that I can give them for questions that they don't even know they need to ask? And I think that's a cool way of dealing one-on-one. But as I mentioned before, eliminating friction comes in the form of looking at every step along the way, every interaction point, and saying, how can I make this better? How can I make this an easier experience? How can I eliminate any customer frustration, which might come in the form of being on hold a little bit longer, being forced to bounce around a website looking for customer support numbers. So phone numbers or ways to connect with customer support. So I believe I answered your question. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's super powerful. So, what I'm hearing is thinking about when a customer answers a question, what happens when they come back? Are they coming back because they didn't get their question answered, or are they coming back because they have a new issue? And so, if you're seeing those reopens pop up, or if you're seeing a lot of
Mhm.
customer questions after the fact, then it sounds like that's usually a sign that there's friction in your process.
I'd also take a look at the frequency that a customer is calling in. If you notice customers are calling in at a greater frequency, you should be thinking about what can I do to eliminate that? And that is to be proactive and find ways of, what are the common questions that are being asked and mitigate or eliminate them. One of the things we love to do in our workshops that we do for our clients is we sit down with the team and we say, okay, what are the biggest, we start with problems, complaints that you have. What are the questions that you're being asked again and again? And then we start looking for ways to eliminate them. By the way, I love it when I say, tell me about the biggest complaint you have. And they tell me, I go, well, how often does this happen? Oh, it happens every day. How often? Oh, like all the time. Why? You know what the problem is. You know what the complaint is. There's got to be a way to eliminate it. I just love the example. And by the way, I'm a huge Amazon fan. And Amazon's a great example because we can all relate to Amazon. Most everybody who is watching this presentation has used Amazon at one point or another. Amazon used to, if you remember way back in the day, Jeff Bezos said, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't need a customer support department? We should be that good. The customers don't have to call us. And somebody said, well, we pretty much are that good until it's out of our control. And what that meant was once the item that was ordered leaves the warehouse, it's usually on a third party shipping experience, FedEx, UPS, DHL, depends on where in the world, USPS, whatever the postal service is, wherever you are. And they lose control. What happens if the package gets lost while one of these carriers has it? Well, who does the customer call? They call Amazon to say, where's my package? It's your fault I don't have it. In reality, it's not their fault. But by the way, they never say it's not our fault. No, what they say is, we're happy to look into this. Oh, we see we shipped it out. We're going to go ahead and find out why it's not there, and we'll get right back to you. They get back to them. They tell them another item's on the way, or they found it, whatever. But now Amazon hears this again and again for years and years. And finally, what do? They start buying their own planes, their own trucks. And now you see the Amazon truck in front of your house, not a US Post Office truck or UPS truck or FedEx. So they're working to, if maybe not eliminate the problem completely, but mitigate. Now that's a big, hairy example, but where can you eliminate or mitigate the problems? So if you're sitting down with your team and saying, where's the friction? What are the biggest complaints? How often are we hearing from these customers about those complaints? How can we eliminate or just mitigate them? Work on the top 3 at a time, come back to the next ones and keep working that list of complaints and problems you have. Look at your questions that you're receiving. What are your most frequently asked questions? Could it be managed with a better experience digitally? Could it be managed with better education? So when the customer buys the product, they're immediately told how they can get the best support. So those are ways to eliminate friction.
I love it. Another point you brought up was creating a consistently amazing experience. And at Forethought, we care a lot about human-centered AI in digital support channels. And as we've all experienced, chatbots, they aren't created equal, and different chatbot experiences can vary widely. So as you think about creating consistency, why should support leaders be looking into AI-driven solutions?
Well, first of all, the right AI solution, and I realize I'm working with Forethought today, so I'll just say Forethought's the right one. But seriously, any solution you have needs to have, and I mentioned this, the consistency needs to have a consistent experience. The consistent experience you want on the back end is that the customer is happy with the answer they got and how easy it was to get there. So AI needs to understand, and I use that example of the computer versus the docking station. AI was completely missing it. It completely misunderstood my question. It heard or was able to identify key words in my question. And as a result, if this is mentioned, then that will be the answer. If this, then that. I always mix up if that, then this, or whatever. It doesn't matter, but you get what happens is that somebody has programmed that if this is the route that a customer is taking or asking about, then this is the answer they should receive. The best AI is going to understand contextually what that customer wants. It might even understand the sentiment. It might even be able to detect whether the customer is frustrated or not, and then seamlessly connect that customer from the chat bot to a live person in chat. And that live person takes a moment to look at the questions and starts to answer those questions. It's seamless. It's easy. The customer doesn't have to repeat their question. It just happens, to use the word, automagically.
I love that. So when thinking about chatbots versus true AI solutions, so many leaders focus on speed, which leads them to jump into traditional chatbots. Customers want speed too, but what they really want is a resolution. So, how do you think leaders should be juggling the balance between speed, resolution, and the overall experience?
So the goal is get the customer the answer to their question or their problem resolved in the fastest, quickest, most convenient way. Speed counts in every way. Whenever there's a problem and the customer is interacting with a live person, I have this 5-step process. I'll do it in under 30 seconds. Number one is you acknowledge the problem, you apologize for the problem, and they can happen in any order. I'm really sorry that's happened. I understand why you would be upset. I would be upset too. That's a great acknowledgement, right? And an apology. Number 3, this is what we're going to do to solve it. Number 4, there's no excuses or blaming others. You're just there to take care of the customer. And number 5, you act with urgency. In other words, how quick can we get this done? Now, I don't care if it's a digital experience or a human to human experience. That's what, whether they know it or not, that's what customers want. And actually, they expect it even if they know it or not. All they know is, I want the company to understand I have a problem, appreciate me for doing business with them, and just take care of it. And you know what? It would be great if they took care of it quickly. So this is what the digital experience needs to be, as well as the in-person or on the phone, live to live, human to human experience needs to be. If we keep an eye on things and we watch customers and we actually take it upon ourselves to mystery shop our own digital experiences, we will soon find where the friction is and where we can eliminate it and make it easier and more convenient, and make sure that all of our customers, when they're finished with these experiences, have a good, positive, consistent experience. Did I answer the question, or did I go down a rabbit hole? I kind of feel
No,
like
no, that was awesome.
By the way, I hope I didn't offend the rabbits when I mentioned the rabbit hole. I would have said squirrel, and then the rabbits would have said, "Why didn't you say rabbits?"
So,
But I digress.
no worries. Wanted to switch gears here a little bit, as we were talking a little bit about AI, chatbots, and how we can use true AI, human-centered AI, to bring speed to the resolution, as well as to bring a consistent answer. One of the things that we think a lot about here at Forethought is that the agent is really the center of the support experience. And so many people, I would say, falsely think about AI as something that potentially is there to replace agents, or something like that. But when you think about how can AI actually empower agents and help them be even better, how have you seen this play out in different areas?
So I'm going to give you at least two things, but I think just two. Number one, AI supports the agent 2 different ways, at least. Number one, if AI does its job on the front end, it takes care of the customer's problem before they have to talk to a live agent, which, by the way, done right, the customer loves that experience. When it seamlessly connects to the agent, as I mentioned earlier, the next part of it is AI can inform the agent who the customer is. It can pull up the information about the customer. It can highlight important details that the agent needs to know about the customer, so they may not need to read through an entire set of, whatever is on that CRM, the customer relationship management tool that you're using. In addition to that, and I mentioned this earlier, sometimes customers aren't getting the answers that they want because they're typing the question in the wrong way. The agent should be trained how to do that effectively. And in some cases, the AI can listen into the call, literally listening to the call, and be able to give the agent the answers to the question before the agent actually has to type in the question. Now, this is a powerful use case for AI, and it's very advanced. But think about that. Now, something else that very advanced features, not necessarily what we do at Forethought, but this is a bigger picture kind of a thing. Maybe it is something we do at Forethought. What if that AI, it also doesn't look at this customer, but compares this customer to thousands of other customers? By the way, we do this behind the scenes, but what if this was done in real time? And the reason I say behind the scenes is because after we get the customer experience, after the customer experience is finished, we can determine, was that an accurate response to the customer? Did AI give me exactly what I want? So we can teach AI to get better and better after the experience happens. But what if we can use AI in real time to say that this customer, Shep, is the same as Dion and 1,000 other customers? Every one of them have bought the same product. They've called at the same frequency with the same questions, the same problems. And you know what? We know what Dion and Shep are going to ask next. And they don't even know it yet, but we know it. We know what product they're going to want to order next. So as an agent, why don't we take a moment to answer the question that the customer doesn't know that they were going to ask or would need to ask or call back for? And even better, if there's a product we know they need to buy, let's train our agents to effectively cross-sell and upsell when appropriate. So it's not about being pushy. It's about being helpful and giving that agent the tools that they need. So there are some great advanced uses of AI that support both the customer's experience as well as the agent's experience. And one other thing I want to mention is that if the customer experience is managed well, it leaves extra time for the agent to not have to deal with some of these simple to answer or maybe even lower level type of problems. It leaves the agent more time to answer bigger, more problematic issues that a customer might have. So that's why you're not going to eliminate the jobs of a customer support person. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be the type of thing where that customer support person becomes even more important to the idea of revenue generation, customer retention, and growth in your business, which is what this whole presentation is about today.
I love it. And that is really a good segue into my last question here, which is about when you think about customer support and the importance of good customer support, it's not just about supporting your customers when they have a problem, but it's about using that information that you're getting on aggregate to make better product decisions, make better marketing decisions, and ultimately drive more revenue for your business. So maybe with my last question here, what do you think are the best ways for businesses to turn their customer support organization into a revenue generating center?
Well, gosh, that's what we've been talking about is what can we do to, and use the term revenue generation center. That may be the better name for customer support because to me, customer support is I'll answer a question, let's go on. No, but revenue generation is all about customer retention. It's all about, finding ways to make that customer love your company and not want to do business anywhere else for fear they risk not having the same experience. I call that, by the way, creating a demanding customer, where customers start to demand of other companies the level of service that your company has been giving them. That's a pretty cool place. And when they demand that level of service from that other company, the other company, who's the competition, says, boy, you're being very demanding. And then you're thinking, but that's what the other company did for me all the time. Well, guess what? I'm going back to that other company. So that's why I think customer support should be called something like, customer retention, revenue generation, all types of other names that have to do with growth and making the company more successful. So before, I know you said it's your last question. So I'd like to throw a question back at you because this is your company. What are your thoughts on using customer support as a growth driver? And specifically, can you give us a couple of examples of what's been working best? What have you heard from your customers?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Actually, one of the things you brought up earlier around, is Forethought doing something like this? one of the things that we think about is with AI, you typically start by thinking about customer support automation. So, how do we help resolve issues, solve issues for our customers? How do we help route and triage? And how do we assist agents in solving those problems? But one of the areas we're starting to think about more deeply is how do you bring AI to be customer support intelligence, right? So, things like looking at past tickets, looking at what agents are saying. What are your best agents saying that you can be replicating across your entire support organization? And what are the most common issues that you're getting? Maybe you're seeing trends that exist now but didn't exist before, or maybe you're just seeing something that came about as a change in product or something like that. How great would it be if you could have AI detect, hey, you're seeing 10, 20% of your support issues coming in about password resets. How about you build that into the product? Or hey, you're seeing 10 to 20% of your issues about refunds. How about you write this article about how to do that? And maybe here's the first few sentences. So we're starting to think about more and more ways to turn your customer support information from the tickets, from the conversations into actionable intelligence for your business. So I think that's one of the best ways to do that. And then something that you mentioned already is identifying upsell opportunities. Customer support goes hand in hand with retention, and we all know that it takes a lot less to retain a customer than it does to get a new customer. And so, how do you think about retention as well as growing your existing customers? So, we have many, many customers who are using, for example, our triage product, which can not only detect categorization, language, sentiment, and things like that, but it can also detect propensity to escalate. For example, hey, here's a problem that they're likely to have, and also detect propensity to upsell. So maybe this is a happy customer, they might be needing this kind of product soon. So these are some of the ways in which we have thought about using customer service, particularly with intelligent AI, to drive revenue and drive growth for our businesses.
Right. Well, you know what? The next time we do this, I'm just going to interview you instead. Great answer. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Shep. Looking forward to it. All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Shep, and thank you all for listening to our presentation today. Hope you learned some actionable insights on how to turn your customer service organization into an amazement organization and a revenue generation center. Thanks again for listening. And I'm your host here, Dion Nicholas, CEO and co-founder of Forethought. Thank you so much, Shep, for joining us, and we'll see you soon.